Hey everybody, this is Maxine Taylor, Georgia's first licensed astrologer, and I thought we might talk about the charts of each of the candidates. Uh, Today is March 18th, and so all of those candidates that we started the presidential race with have narrowed down, and now we have 5. When I do a chart interpretation, it's very, very detailed. There is no way I can go into it and keep everyone's attention for the length of time that a birth chart interpretation takes. I'm going to give you a very simplified, easy to understand interpretation of each of the candidates. If you are interested in having me read your birth chart to you, just go to my website, MaxineTaylor.com, and we can take it away from there. Okay, let's start with the chart of Donald Trump, since he is the one everybody's talking about. Okay, we're going to start with the 10th house of the zodiac, because the 10th house deals with your public image, it's your career, it's what the world thinks of you, it's what the world sees of you. And when you have planets in your 10th house, you're a natural leader, particularly so if you have the sun in your 10th house, which Donald Trump does. His most highly elevated planet, and by the way, I apologize for my handwriting. I always kid that it's a holdover from an ancient Chinese incarnation because it's impossible to read. And when I do it with the astrological symbols, it's even worse. Okay, so he has Uranus as his most highly elevated planet. Uranus is the rebel. Uranus is the great awakener, but it's the one who is totally unpredictable. We never know what's going to happen. We never know what they're going to say, particularly since Donald Trump has Uranus in Gemini, the communicator. His north node, which is the area of life of greatest success, is in his 10th house of leadership. The sun, which is the center of life. It is where the ego expresses itself. It is the giver of life. It too is in his 10th house. And the sun represents our earthly father here. And so his father told him, be the leader. And he has been. He learned from his father. And so he is naturally born to lead. And he has led in his career. And with Uranus up there, we just never know what he's going to say or what he's going to do. He is the rebel. Look at his 11th house of friends and group activities and hopes and wishes. He has Mercury, the conscious mind, in that house. And now he has, while he has the Uranus and the sun in Gemini, the communicator, his Mercury, Saturn, and Venus are in Cancer, the sign of the nurturer. And so Mercury, what we think about and talk about, and who we talk about, is in his 11th house of friends and group activities. Saturn, reality, responsibility. A lot of people look at Saturn as fear. I don't look at Saturn as fear. I look at it as responding to your ability. Saturn is the planet of the leader. It represents the older authority figures in our lives. It represents the should and ought to relatives. You should do this. You ought to do that. We're talking grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, that type of thing. And so with Saturn in his 11th house, his responsibility is to be a friend, but to also be a leader in groups. Now he has Venus, the planet of love and beauty, in the 11th house too. And so there is a love of groups. But if he has not worked through that Saturn, there is a fear of groups as well. And in Cancer, Cancer is a very sensitive, self-protective, defensive sign. They get their feelings hurt very easily. And like a crab, they can snap at you. And so with those planets in his 11th house, this is how he would react in groups. Now I have to mention this. Anyone with anything in their 11th house feels very different and asks themselves at least once a week, am I crazy or is the world crazy? Do you have planets in your 11th house? You know you feel like a stranger in a strange land, okay? And you do everything differently. Look at his 12th house. The 12th house is behind the scenes activities. It's our subconscious mind. It can be sorrow and sadness, but it's the things that we suppress. Pluto, the planet of control, is in his 12th house, and so he wants behind the scenes control. Pluto represents the older female controlling authority figures in our lives, like grandmother, great grandmother. And so on a subconscious level, he feels that he has to be in control for fear of being controlled. Okay? That's just how it is. Now he has Mars behind his ascendant. I've put his ascendant, oh shoot, I didn't put the sign. He has a 29-degree, 58 minutes Leo ascendant. And so he is finishing up the last 2 minutes of the lesson of Leo. And Leo is creativity, it's fun, it's the king. And I have noticed that the ascendant is very often stronger than the sun sign. So with the ruler of his ascendant, even though I didn't write it in his 10th house, he personally, the ascendant is the most personal point in the chart. He absolutely believes himself to be the leader. And so there's a great deal of control that he has and then behind the scenes. But look at that Mars. Mars is actually in 2647 of Leo. And so Mars is hidden behind his ascendant in his 12th house. There is hidden anger, although I don't think he hides it. But I think he's such a showman that he can exaggerate it when he needs to. And so with Mars close to the ascendant, there's a very strong me first quality, which we have seen. Now, his second house is quite lovely. He has Neptune, wishful thinking, idealism. Neptune in the house of money. Neptune is the dream. Neptune dissolves whatever it touches. However, with Neptune in his second house, there is a tendency for a non-materialistic attitude, as well as dissolving of money, one way or the other, probably both. He has Jupiter in his second house too, which is abundance. Isn't that interesting? Now look at his fourth house. Very, very interesting. The fourth house is home, family, and real estate. And we have the South Node, which is the area we have mastered in past lives. And so we're instinctively drawn to it, but it can cause a drain in our lives if we spend too much time there. Well, what is there? Home, family, real estate. Okay, he has the moon there. That's mommy's message. Where is the moon in your chart? That's where your mother taught you to look for your emotional security. Well, Donald Trump has the moon in his fourth house in Sagittarius. Now we know Sagittarius shoots from the hip and they tell it like it is, and it's very hard for them to keep a secret. It's very hard for them not to exaggerate for fun. And so we've got the moon, mommy's message, which is look to your home and family for your emotional security. Some of you might be saying, what about real estate? Yes, look for that. Look for your emotional security in real estate. However, you notice that the moon doesn't say you'll find it there. It just says look for it there. Trump has his vertex, his karmic role in life, in the fifth house of entertainment and children and showmanship and sports and all kinds of fun. So that is Donald Trump's chart. Now, let's take a look at Hillary's chart. And I'm going to put it up here so I can give you the degrees if we ever need them. Okay, this is Hillary's chart, and it's very, very interesting to me because I always go where I start with wherever my eye takes me. And look at this 12th house and first house here. You can see that Hillary has a very powerful 12th house, which is behind the scenes activities. It's spirit plane. It's a very spiritual placement, but it is also traditionally the house of sorrow and sadness if we don't master it. Now, Hillary is a Scorpio with Scorpio rising. So she has a Scorpio ascendant. She's what we call a double Scorpio. Very interesting. Scorpio, there's a wonderful expression I use to describe Scorpio. To be afraid and not to care that you are afraid is the courage of which Scorpio is made. Scorpio is life or death, all or nothing. Scorpio can be the scorpion, which has to sting somebody, or it can be the phoenix rising on its own ashes, overcoming the limitations of earthly life. Very, very powerful sign. The most powerful sign, I think, and totally misinterpreted by so many writers of astrology books. Okay, so let's talk about her 12th house. Well, the sun, the giver of life, the center of our life, is in her 12th house. And so she is a very, very private person. You might say, no, she's very public. She's in politics. Yeah, and she's a very, very, very private person. When I do a chart on someone who has a strong 12th house, I don't ask questions. I don't pry. I allow them to ask the questions. And her daddy's message was, be the behind the scenes person, be the power behind the throne. There it is. Venus, the planet of love, is also in her 12th house in Scorpio. Whatever planets you have in Scorpio are very passionate, very deep. And so she has a dream of love and beauty that the earth plane cannot deliver. And so with Venus there, her love life is private. Now, I don't mean she has any reason to keep a private life, but in other words, she is a private person. Her Mercury is 21 degrees Scorpio. Her ascendant is 22 degrees Scorpio. And so with Mercury, our conscious mind, in Scorpio, she is a detective. She gets to the bottom of things. And Scorpio is the sign of secrets. So she has the Sun, Venus, Mercury, the ascendant, and the South Node in Scorpio. Okay? Mercury sitting close to her ascendant helps her express her ideas. Yes, it's in the 12th house, but she can't express herself. Now she has the South Node on the ascendant in the 1st house. And so she has mastered her in past lives. She has taken care of her. Her North Node is in the 7th house. And so this is the lifetime in which her greatest success will come from helping other people, in particular her partner, 7th house partner, helping Bill, because she has mastered taking charge of herself. Now she has Jupiter and Sagittarius in the 1st house. This makes her jovial, optimistic, but you can feel the power of all that 12th house Scorpio, can't you? Her moon, mommy's message is, look to your family for your emotional security. Her moon is in Pisces, the dreamer, the idealist. And so home and family, vitally important to her. I've talked about her 7th. Look at Uranus in her 8th house. This makes her a psychic detective. The 8th house is other people's money, and there will be unexpected journeys with other people's money, as well as on a very psychic level. This girl has a gut response that I'm sure is accurate, primarily because of all that Scorpio, which rules the natural 8th house in the zodiac. But with Uranus there, it's particularly so. Her vertex, again, pardon my handwriting, is in the 8th house, and that means that her karmic role in life will be undergoing a transformation in this lifetime. Whatever planets you have in the 8th house will undergo a transformation in this lifetime. You will work through them in this lifetime without having to leave and come back to do it. Now look at that powerful 9th house. She has Mars, Pluto, and Saturn in her 9th house of her philosophies, her beliefs, long-distance communication, and travel and correspondence. And so this is the person who wants to be dealing with other people from foreign lands. Mars says she'll fight for her beliefs. Pluto says she'll hang on to them, she'll control them. Saturn says she is in charge, is the leader when it comes to expressing her beliefs. A little advanced astrology I hope this is not blocking the screen. I just got something here. Here we go. A little advanced astrology. Hillary's Sun and Mars and Sun and Pluto are in mutual reception. That means they symbolically change places with each other. And that puts the Sun in her 9th house of foreign affairs, foreign travel. It puts Mars and Pluto in her 12th house, saying she will fight for her privacy and she must be in control. Neptune is in her 11th house, so she too, like Donald Trump, feels very unique, very different, very different. What in the world am I doing here with these earthlings? But with Neptune there, she has a dream of being a friend, and she adores humanity. Isn't that interesting? Okay, let's now look at Bernie's chart. And as I said, in the interest of time, I'm keeping this very short. Now, look at here. Well, Bernie has a Scorpio ascendant, just like Hillary. Isn't that fascinating? My eye immediately went to his 10th house because, like Donald Trump, he too has his sun in the 10th house. He is a Virgo. And you know, if you're a Virgo, or if you've got your moon in Virgo, or your ascendant in Virgo, you know that if you wake up in the morning and you have nothing to worry about, you're worried. Because Virgo is the perfectionist. And Virgo knows that it's never perfect. They're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. But with the sun in his 10th house, Daddy's message was be the leader, and he is a leader. His North Node, just like Donald Trump's, is in the 10th house. And so he's looking for leadership. His greatest fulfillment and happiness will come as a leader. He has Neptune in the 10th house in Virgo, and Neptune is the dreamer, the idealist. And so he wants, especially with the Sun, North Node, and Neptune in Virgo, he wants to serve in a position of leadership. Look at what you have in your 10th house. That tells you how you would serve as a leader. You might say, I don't have any planets in my 10th house. That's okay. You have a sign on the midheaven, and that sign describes your leadership ability. Find the planet that rules it. Find it in whatever house it's in, and that is where you express your leadership. Little advanced astrology there. Okay, Mercury, he has it in Libra. Mercury is our communication, our thinking, our speaking. Wherever it is, that's what we think about and talk about, and he thinks of leadership. In Libra, it is the go-between, okay? It interacts one-on-one with people. Bernie, too, has Venus in the 11th, and I talked about the 11th house person saying, am I crazy or is the world crazy? But with Venus, the planet of love, in its own sign, Libra, Bernie loves people. He loves humanity. And if I remember correctly, I think Trump had that also. However, Trump had it in Cancer. Bernie has it in the air sign Libra, which treats everyone as a friend, everyone as an equal. Very, very interesting. Now, again, his South Node is in the 4th house. He has mastered domestic issues and needs to fulfill his career potential. He has Mars in Aries conjunct the moon in Aries. Wow. Now, if you have any Aries in your chart, you know that you shoot from the hip. On a scale of 1 to 10, your attention span is a -4 because you want it done now, don't you? Okay, I'm talking about myself. I have Mars in Aries too. Okay, with his moon in Aries, in the 5th house of children and fun and games, Mama's message was to be a kid, to look to his children for his emotional security, and there is a flip in relationships with the moon in the 5th house, meaning mommy will be the child and there's a child who will be like mommy. And yet wherever Mars is what comes first to you. It's what you throw yourself into. And so his kids come first to him. Fun comes first to him. Love it. Look at his 7th house. He has Saturn, the planet of responsibility, on his 7th cusp. And so his the older authority figures in his life said, you should get married, you have to get married, you need to be in a one-on-one relationship with people, and other people can hold him back because this is where he learns reality. Next to Saturn is Uranus, and so other people act very unpredictably. In the one-on-one relationships, in his one-on-one relationships, he will be a combination of Saturn, Sirius, and off-the-wall Bernie. It's going to be great. I mean, that is the karmic group in which he was born. Were you born in the 40s? You have that too. And then he has Jupiter in his 7th house, which is the great benefic, and he loves dealing one-on-one with people, and he's popular one-on-one with people. But he is truly a combination of the traditional and the non-traditional. That's the Saturn-Uranus conjunction, the traditional rebel, so to speak. All right. His vertex is actually in the 8th house, means he will totally transform, his role in life will be transformed in this lifetime. And Pluto, the planet of control or transformation, is in his 9th house of principles, beliefs, and philosophy. That's what Hillary had also, although she had more than just Pluto up there. She had Mars and Saturn up there. But what it says is he can transform his own belief system, and this would come about from the maternal side of his family. Interesting. Don't you just love astrology? Now, let's talk about Ted Cruz. And I'm going to put the real sure enough version of his chart up here. Okay. Well, let's just start right here at the ascendant, shall we? His ascendant is Libra. And with Libra rising, you usually have a very sweet smile and a certain charm about you. The planets in the 1st house can augment that or take away from it. It just depends. But we want to look here at his Pluto. It's in 29 degrees Virgo. That means it's in the last degree of Virgo. Pluto is control or transformation. In the 12th house, as we know, Pluto represents the older female relatives in the family. And when somebody has Pluto in the 12th house of behind the scenes, the subconscious, and it is conjunct, meaning right on top of the ascendant. It's like somebody standing behind you, putting their hands on your shoulders, resting their chin on your shoulder, and whispering in your ear, controlling you. This is Grandma right here. Okay? In his 1st house, he has Uranus, the unexpected. So he's going to be a very different person, isn't he? Libra can be charming, rising, but that 1st house describes the person more than any other house. He has Uranus and the moon in the 1st house. Uranus says, I'm going to break free. I'm going to do it my way. And guess who taught him to do that? Mom. There's the moon. Hard to read my handwriting, I know, but there's the moon in the 1st house. And so mommy's message is look to yourself for your own security. You're on your own. And be a rebel. Bust loose. Be different. And that's what we see. Isn't that just marvelous? There it is in the chart. 2nd house of money. He has Mars, Venus, and Jupiter. Mars is what we throw ourselves into. It's what comes first to us. It's what we fight with or fight for. And so money comes first to him. With Venus and Jupiter, the 2 great benefics, Venus is love and Jupiter is abundance. And in the 2nd house, he can create a great deal of money. Mars in the 2nd house, you get it and you spend it. 3rd house, this is his conscious mind. He has Neptune there, and Neptune is the idealist, the dreamer. It is the person who can be divinely inspired. And so when he expresses himself, it's not always clear necessarily what he's saying. There can be idealism involved. Now, his sun is in 0 degrees 4 minutes of Capricorn, which means he's right on the cusp of Sagittarius and Capricorn. And we know that's, excuse me, Sagittarians, as I said, shoot from the hip, and it's sometimes hard for them to keep their foot out of their mouth. And so Cruz is going to be a combination of the hard-working Capricorn. You know Capricorn, I don't mope, I don't hope, I cope. And Sagittarius that says, can't take a joke, too bad. And that's in his third house of communication. So just listen to what he's saying and he'll express himself. He'll express this chart. Now, his Mercury, his conscious mind, what we think about and talk about, is in traditional Capricorn in his fourth house. And so he thinks about home and family. He talks about home and family. His North Node is in the fifth house, so his greatest blessings will come from fun, from children. His vertex is in the seventh house, and so his relationship with people will undergo a transformation. Will not undergo a transformation. I'm looking at Saturn up here. Will be the area over which he has no control. His karmic role is in interacting one-on-one with people, but my mind was getting ahead of my mouth. With Saturn, the planet of responsibility and often fear, in the eighth house of transformation, it does show that there is concern over other people having power over him. And the Saturn represents the authority figures, the should and ought to people in our lives. And what this says is you should deal with other people. You should help them financially. But on a deeper level, you should look at the fears that are running you. And he will in this lifetime. He has the South Node in the 11th house. This is the area that can be an area of loss because you've already mastered it in past lives. We're talking about group activities, humanity, and being a friend. And so there is a desire to be a friend. So that is Ted Cruz. And now, last but not least, we're going to look at John Kasich. And at this point in time, I have still not heard from his people, so I do not have a birth time for him. It means I don't have an accurate birth chart. So what I'm going to use is his solar chart. So we don't know what his ascendant is. We don't even know what degree his moon in Capricorn is. But let me tell you about the solar chart. It's a very accurate chart. First of all, anybody who does not have a birth time, we use a solar chart for them, and that puts the sun, the ego, the center of your life, in the first house of you. Well, as humans, we do tend to put ourselves first. He also has Jupiter and Venus in his first house. Now, he is a Taurus, and he has Jupiter and Venus in Taurus, conjunct the sun, and so he's got a sweetness, a charm, and he's very Taurian. He has a sweet tooth, and you can't force him to do anything. You can coax him, you can urge him, but he's going to do it his way with a smile. Uranus is in his third house. He is probably very bright, probably blurts things out without thinking sometimes, and is very farsighted, very ahead of his time. I think that's why he's accomplished what he has in his state. Pluto and the South Node are in the fourth house. Pluto represents the powerful, controlling authority women in his life. And the South Node says you've already worked through your karma. You've already mastered home and family and real estate issues. But it shows that there is a powerful female authority figure who influences his emotional attachment to his family. He has Saturn and Neptune both in the sixth house of service. Now, when you have planets in your sixth house, you're a doer. You want to serve. You want to be needed. Saturn, very interestingly enough, says, yes, but I want to be in the lead if I'm serving. The sixth house is the job. The 10th house is the career. And so with Saturn in the sixth house, you want to be the leader in your job. And you can get stuck in a rut sometimes because the sixth house is the house of service, and you cross your T's and dot your I's and do the things that other people won't do. And Neptune, the dreamer, the idealist, is in his sixth house of service. And so he dreams of being of service. Mars is in Scorpio. It rules Scorpio. It's very powerful there. Wherever Mars is what comes first to us, and partnership comes first to him. One-on-one relationships. So he's very direct in his one-on-one relationships. We do not know his birth time, so we cannot even determine the degree that the moon is in, but it is in Capricorn. Serious, hardworking Capricorn. And what's so interesting to me is Capricorn is very frugal. And my understanding from what he has said is he was able to balance the budget in the state of Ohio. And I thought, oh, that's so Capricornian because they're so frugal. Now, the moon is in the ninth, and so mommy's message is spread your wings and soar. Look for your emotional security in your belief system. Look for your emotional security in travel, in higher education, and in people from other lands. And his north node is in the 10th house, which means his greatest success comes in leadership. And his Mercury, his conscious mind, is in Aries. So he's got a fast mind, but it's in his 12th house of the subconscious, which means he's not going to tell us everything. He has to sleep on his ideas in order to get a clear message, like many people. If you have Mercury in your 12th house, you have to sleep on it. Let it speak to you while you're asleep, and then you have your answer the next day. So as of now, these are our candidates. I hope you have enjoyed this. I've tried to make this as brief and yet to the point as I could. Once again, if you would like your own birth chart read by moi, just go to my website, MaxineTaylor.com. Stay on my YouTube channel because I'll be continuously updating the progress of the candidates. So, till we meet again, may the stars shine brightly on you and yours and the United States of America.